Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, when it comes to Ninjago, something that we get introduced to ever since Season 2 is a ninja ally, just this character who's meant to help out the ninja in some way or another during the story, and they generally, for the most part in my opinion, can be well done and interesting characters, and everyone obviously has their own favorite and least favorite ninja allies that we've gotten. And so in today's video, I decided that I was going to give you guys my 10 least favorite ninja allies. Now, when I say least favorite ninja allies, that doesn't necessarily mean I think that they're bad or not good or anything. It's mainly just in comparison to some other ninja allies, I personally wasn't really that big a fan of them, all things considered. And when it comes to some of these, mainly the first couple, I, again, don't think they're all too bad. Also, I decided to put a limit on only having a few Elemental Masters, because otherwise I legitimately could have just filled up this entire list with Elemental Masters, so I'm only going to have a limit on 2 Elemental Masters we've gotten. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys, so let's get into this whole thing. Number 10, the Upli. Now, like I said, I don't think that the Upli are bad or anything. I did think that they were pretty well done characters, all things considered, during the events of Season 13. My main issue, though, that I have with them is just they're introduced so late into the season. They're introduced like halfway through the season, and that's really only when they play some kind of like big role and everything. Like when it comes to other ninja allies, they either play a large role in a certain part of the storyline, or they're introduced relatively early on when it comes to the story of a season. When it comes to the Upli, again, they're just kind of introduced halfway through the season, and that's it. And plus, when it comes to their backstory episode, Dungeon Party, I honestly think it's a pretty bad episode considering too much focus is put on Gorgrun, and Fungus and Pluntar barely get any kind of focus at all during that backstory. When it comes to the Upli, again, I think they're fine characters, all things considered, and they were alright, but they definitely weren't my favorite parts of Season 11, although again, they were okay and funny at times, really. Number 9, please don't hate me for saying this, but Vanya. Now look, just like in the case of the Upli, I don't think that Vanya is a bad character by any means. Do not get that idea at all. Vanya, in my opinion, is a pretty good character, all things considered. My main issue, though, that I have with Vanya compared to other ninja allies is this. Vanya's just boring, in my opinion. Like, compared to a whole bunch of other major ninja allies, Vanya's lacking one of 3 things that a whole bunch of other ninja allies have. Either A, some kind of big twist related to her, B, some kind of significant character development or growth or something, or C, just some kind of backstory essentially. Vanya doesn't have any of that stuff. When it comes to some kind of big twist, again, Vanya doesn't really have that. Like, okay, you could make an argument for the Skull Sorcerer being her dad, but that's really more a twist for the Skull Sorcerer and King Vangelis, since we always knew who Vanya's dad was, so that really isn't a twist. When it comes to Vanya's backstory, we get nothing. In fact, we have absolutely no backstory on Shintaro and just where it came from in the first place and just the whole thing behind it. And when it comes to any kind of like significant growth or development, again, Vanya doesn't really have that all too much. And she's just kind of there during the adventure. So there's that. And to be honest with you guys, sometimes your fangirling can come off as just being kind of annoying, honestly. But again, when it comes to Vanya, I think she's an alright character, and I do like her. And I think it's interesting that she is finally a love interest for Cole, so that's something. But again, probably the best way that I can describe it when it comes to Vanya, I think that she's overrated and just she's okay at best. Not bad, but again, just not really that great for me personally. Number 8, Milton Dyer. Season 12 introduced us to a lot of new ninja allies, and with the exception of Okino, in my opinion, the ninja allies really weren't all well done, but Milton Dyer was a bit of an exception. I think that was interesting that when it comes to Milton Dyer, he was the one who created Prime Empire and Unagami, and he was even the one responsible for just turning Unagami into what he is now by not giving him any answers. That's definitely something pretty interesting, and I think it's also neat that when it comes to Dyer and Unagami, they're both relating to the big overall questions that Season 12 asks. Mainly, is a creator responsible for his creation's actions, and is artificial life actual life? That is definitely something pretty interesting. But my main issue that I have with Milton Dyer is that he's basically just Cyrus Borg again. And we already had Cyrus Borg in this season. But just, seriously, when it comes to Milton Dyer, again, the two of them are pretty similar to each other. Both of them are just these inventor characters who created this, like, big, impressive thing that ended up, like, going rogue or something bad happens to them, resulting in a whole bunch of people being put in danger and everything. And ultimately, they were able to help defeat it in the end. But just, Again, overall, Milton Dyer was just a bit too similar to Cyrus Borg for me personally. And with Dyer, that's where we end with the characters that I do still like, and now we're getting into the characters that I just am not that big a fan of. Number 7, fittingly enough, Racer 7. My main issue that I have with Racer 7 is that she's just way too similar to other characters we've seen before when it comes to Ninjago. Like, seriously. For starters, her story is literally the exact same as Okino. She finds out that she's a character inside a video game, and she just comes to terms with it, and that's pretty much it. And when it comes to her design, it's very similar to Antonia's, just with a different hair color. Like, seriously, when it comes to Racer 7, I honestly feel like she could have been replaced with any other named character we got in the show, and things would have gone the exact same way. Like, seriously, when it comes to Racer 7, she's a pretty boring and uninteresting character, especially considering the fact that, again, she's literally just Okino done again with her stories sorted down in order to be in one single episode instead of the multiple storyline arc that we got when it came to Okino. So, yeah, when it comes to Racer 7, not really that big a fan of her. Number 6, Tox. When it comes to the Elemental Masters, in my opinion, overall they were alright characters, with some that I personally wasn't that big a fan of. Tox was one of them. My main issue with Tox that I have is just, during the events of Tournament of Elements, Tox barely had any kind of real role at all during the season. Like, really all we knew about her is just that she was the Elemental Master of Poison, and that was literally it. There wasn't anything else that we really knew about her. And when it came to Tox, she barely did anything during the events Tournament of Elements. Again, she was just kind of there, and she never even spoke a word until the events of Hunted, and during the events of Hunted, once again, she was just kind of there and really only did stuff in, like, the big ambush, and that was kind of it. Like, I do think it's interesting that both she and Pale Man are characters who originated in the Ultra Agents team and got brought over into Ninjago. Like, that is definitely something pretty cool, but just, that's really the only positives I can actually give her, and that's kind of it. Number 5, Clutch Powers. I know the idea when it comes to Clutch Powers is that he's meant to be this character who you're not supposed to like and everything. And just he's this character where you look and he's just like, oh, yeah, this guy, great. Except, here's the thing. When it comes to Clutch Powers, in my opinion, I have a feeling that the writers maybe worked it a bit too well, because in addition to him just being the character who you're not supposed to like, I just genuinely really don't like Clutch Powers all too much. Like, I get it when it comes to Clutch, they had to change up some things relating to him so that way he wouldn't be that similar to how he was during the movie and everything. But did they have to go down the route of making him a completely unlikable jerk who only cares about himself and his own image and literally nothing else? Like, seriously, when it comes to Clutch, the sole reason why he does literally anything during the events of the show is just in order to make himself and his reputation look better. Like, seriously, again, this guy's just a massive jerk who only cares about himself, and I just don't think that's really likable all too much. Just pretty much anytime he was ever on the show, like, having some kind of role, I was just like, ugh, great, this guy. And just during the moments where, again, you can just tell how much she's just doing things literally just for himself, like, again, it doesn't exactly make him all that better in my opinion. Just again, I get that they had to make some changes when it comes to Clutch Powers, but again, did they have to make him into a completely unlikable jerk? Number 4, Mistake. Out of all the mentors that we have gotten over the course of Ninjago, Mistake is by far the worst out of all of them. And it's for one simple reason. Mistake is just way too vague and ominous about literally everything she does. When it came to other mentors, they either gave straight answers, or when it came to them being vague, it at the very least made sense when it came to the situation going on. Or just at the very least, they ended up giving straight answers. When it comes to Mistake, again, she just gives vague answers the whole time. And half the time, whenever she's helping out the team, it doesn't even seem like she's actually really helping them out all too much, and that she seemingly couldn't care all too much about what's actually going on. Like, seriously, she gave the Resistance a whole bunch of answers to questions and stuff they had after they were at their lowest point, instead of just telling them all that stuff. Like, seriously, it's really, really strange, honestly. And something that, in my opinion, I just really didn't like when it came to Mistake is the whole twist of her being an Oni honestly feels like it comes out of absolutely nowhere, honestly. Like, when it came to the twist of Zane being a robot, that made more sense in my opinion, especially considering the fact that there was actual setup and build up to this whole reveal and everything. Meanwhile, when it comes to Mistake being an Oni, The closest we get is just she disappears at one point in season 9, and that's literally it. That is like the one hint we actually get into the idea of something weird going on when it comes to her. Like, again, seriously, the whole twist, it genuinely feels like it comes out of nowhere, and in my opinion, it just doesn't work all too well. And to be honest with you guys, Sorla, the mentor character who we got during the Ice chapter, was a much, much better mentor than Mistake ever was. Number 3. Camille. Out of all the elemental masters we have gotten, Camille is by far the worst out of all of them in my opinion, and it's for a variety of reasons. For starters, just like Tox, when it comes to Camille, she's just kinda there and doesn't do or say all that much during the events tournament. Like, she says stuff, and so I guess that's something, but still, when it comes to Camille overall, again, she's just there basically. And we barely get to see her compete at all during the tournament. Like, yeah, there's the Thunderblade match against Lloyd, but can that really even be called Camille's match, considering, every remaining Elemental Master was in that match? Like, again, I don't think it counts all too much. And when it comes to Camille, her powers of form are honestly my least favorite elemental power because, oh yeah, looking like someone else is definitely going to be useful in a one-on-one fighting tournament when your opponent knows who you're going up against. Like, seriously, her powers just feel really weird and odd, honestly. Like, they can be useful in a group situation, but just, again, in a one-on-one fighting competition, again, looking like someone else is going to have extremely limited uses. Like, if when it came to Camille, her powers were to say something like she touches something and her body turns into that, like say she touches a rock, her body becomes as hard as a rock, like, okay, that's something interesting. Or say she has the ability to take on the form of animals. Again, that's something, honestly, but just basically having the powers of Mystique, I don't think that's all too interesting, all the things considered. Again, especially in a one-on-one fighting competition. And she didn't even make a return in season 9, and all we know about her is just that she's a bad girl now, and that's literally it. So she's a villain, or at least a criminal now? Like, again, at least some update on this would be nice. And plus, she's the only elemental master that at this point she doesn't even have a minifigure. So, again, I guess that's something. Yeah, again, Camille's by far my least favorite elemental master. Number 2. Scott. Out of all the ninja allies we got during the events of Prime Empire, Scott was by far the worst out of all of them. I already made a whole video talking about why I don't like him, but for just the big main reason as to why I don't like Scott, this guy does basically nothing during the events of Prime Empire. He pretty much just sits around in his garage while ninja are actually going out and doing stuff. And the one time Scott actually does something, bending off the Red Visors, giving them a chance to escape to the Speedway 5 billion, he dies. And to be honest with you guys, I didn't feel bad or upset for Scott when he died because, again, we barely got to know him in the time he was around during the show. Again, the guy just did nothing. Like, seriously. Also, I didn't like his negative outlook towards basically everything, and just, seriously, again, like I said, the biggest issue that I have with Scott is just the fact that he does basically nothing, and again, the one time he does actually do something, he ends up dying as a result. So just, again, I just really, really don't like Scott, especially considering the fact that when it came to the marketing and build-up for Prime Empire, it built up Scott to be this, like, big and important character during the season. Yet he's only in 5 episodes, one of those being a brief cameo, the other one being like a 2-minute flashback, so it's really more like 3 episodes out of 16 episodes. And that's in the entirety of the show. He didn't even make any cameo appearances past this. Scott, in my opinion, is just the definition of wasted potential. And for a while, in my personal opinion, he was the worst ninja ally in the show. That was until number 1, Twitchy Tim. My biggest issue that I have with Twitchy Tim is one simple thing. This guy is basically Scott, except way worse. The two characters are basically one and the same. Both characters who just sit around and let the ninja do everything, while they themselves don't really do all that much until they end up having one big moment towards the end of their story, or in the case of Twitchy Tim, towards the end of the season, where they actually do something, but in my opinion, it feels undeserved considering how little they actually did during the events of the season. Just, seriously, when it comes to Twitchy Tim, again, this guy's whole thing is basically just, he's scared and he runs away from danger. That's literally his whole character, and there's nothing else about it. Like, seriously, he barely shows up at all during the events of the island, and just the time he actually does end up doing something, and just defeating Ronin, again, in my opinion, feels undeserved and honestly makes no sense at all. And just the way Twitchy Tim does actually defeat Ronin makes absolutely no sense. Just, he powers one of the Keeper's catamarans by using the electricity shocks in his hair. Just, what? And when it comes to Twitchy Tim, I just think he's a pretty annoying character, all things considered. Like, he was not funny at all. And I especially don't like the fact that when it comes to Twitchy Tim, they did this whole short-term memory loss thing when it came to him during the event into the island, and once again during his one appearance in Season 16, and just, again, this was not funny. It was pretty annoying, and any potential growth or development he could have gone through during the events of the island with him seemingly, like, not running away from danger, yeah, that's just thrown completely out the window during the event into Crystallize, considering he just runs away from the police after they, like, find the ninja and everything. Just, seriously, Twitchy Tim sucks, and just probably my biggest issue when it comes to Twitchy Tim is the fact that you could remove him from the events of the island and things would have gone the exact same way. Like, no, seriously, they go the exact same way. The ninja still go to the island, the ninja still battle against the Keepers, they fail, Jay is going to be sacrificed to Wajira, the ninja find out about the fake Wajira, they stop Ronin. Everything could have gone the exact same way without Twitchy Tim. Again, yeah, he's the one who stops Ronin, but one of the ninja could have just as easily been the one to stop him. And in my opinion, that's definitely the biggest issue that I have with Twitchy Tim. Again, the fact that you can remove him and barely anything changes. In my opinion, something that makes a ninja ally good is if they actually have some kind of big impact on the story, or at the very least, some kind of impact on the story where they actually do something to help out. Like, even Scott was able to fend off the red visors in order to give the ninja a chance to escape. Just, again, when it comes to Twitchy Tim, the guy does practically nothing during the island. Just, I really don't like Twitchy Tim, and he is just one of the worst characters in the entirety of the show, honestly. And in my opinion, again, easily the worst ninja ally we have ever gotten when it comes to Ninjago. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? Who are your guys' 10 least favorite ninja allies? Again, tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.